"That's your share, Mom, now leave." The words hung in the air like poison. I stood frozen in my office, the office I had built with my own 2 hands over 30 years, staring at my son's cold, unfamiliar face. "What did you just say to me?" My voice barely a whisper, hoping I'd misheard. James adjusted his expensive tie, the one I'd bought him for his 30th birthday last month, and slid a document across the polished mahogany desk. My desk. "It's all legal, Mom. You signed everything over last quarter during the restructuring. I made sure of it." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You get 15% of the company value. That's generous considering market conditions. The remaining 85% stays with me as CEO." My hands trembled as I reached for the paper. The room started spinning. 30 years of sacrifice, of missed dinners, of working weekends, of putting this business ahead of everything, gone. Stolen by my own flesh and blood. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they've been plotting against you the whole time? I'm asking you this because what I experienced that day was a betrayal so deep it felt like the ground had opened beneath my feet. I built Horizon Homes from nothing. When James was just a baby, I used to carry him in a sling while I showed properties. When other kids had their mothers at school plays, James had a mom who was working to put food on the table and build something meaningful for our future, for his future. Now he stood before me, a stranger wearing my son's face, telling me to leave my own company. Why? The question escaped my lips as tears burned behind my eyes. "This was always meant to be yours someday, James. I was planning to hand it all to you when I retired. Why would you do this?" "Because someday wasn't good enough, Mom." He checked his watch, the Rolex I'd given him when he graduated business school. "The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. I need you gone before then." When did my son become this person? When did the little boy who used to curl up in my lap while I reviewed contracts transform into this cold, calculating man who could look me in the eye while ripping away my life's work? Do you know what it feels like when the child you sacrificed everything for decides you're disposable? If you're a parent watching this, you might understand the depth of this pain. If you're a child, you might want to consider how your actions could affect those who gave you everything. I looked around the office. Every award on the wall, every photograph, every piece of furniture had a memory attached to it. The couch where I'd napped during late nights, the window where I'd stood, watching sunrises, planning our company's future. The family photo from our company's 25th anniversary celebration, James standing proudly beside me, his arm around my shoulder. Was he already planning this then? "The board doesn't know about this, do they?" I asked, suddenly understanding. "You're going to tell them I've decided to retire early, that I've chosen to hand everything over to you." His silence was my answer. "They respect you," he finally said. "If they knew I was forcing you out, it would complicate things." I squared my shoulders, finding strength in my anger. "And if I refuse to leave? If I walk into that board meeting and tell them exactly what you've done?" Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Then I'll be forced to reveal some discrepancies I've discovered in the company finances from when you were the sole signatory. Nothing that couldn't be explained away as accounting errors, of course, unless someone wanted to frame them as deliberate fraud." My blood ran cold. "You wouldn't. I've learned from the best, Mom. You always taught me to leverage every advantage in a negotiation." He gestured to the document. "It's a fair offer. Take it and walk away with dignity. What would you do if faced with such a betrayal? Would you fight back against your own child? Or would the love you still feel for them despite everything hold you back?" I clutched the edge of the desk to steady myself. This desk, where I'd signed my first $1 million deal, where I'd worked through the night during the housing crash of 2008 to save our company, where I'd mentored James and taught him everything I knew. "Mom, I need your decision now." His voice was impatient, dismissive, like I was a stranger holding up his day. In that moment, looking at my son, this person I had raised, loved, sacrificed, for I faced the hardest choice of my life. If you've ever had to decide between fighting for what's rightfully yours and protecting someone you love, even when they've hurt you deeply, then you'll understand the impossible position I found myself in. What happened next changed everything, not just for me and James, but for everyone connected to Horizon Homes. If this story of betrayal and family drama resonates with you, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it? Stay with me as I reveal how this heartbreaking situation unfolded and the surprising turn of events that no one, especially not James, saw coming. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs I missed, the subtle shifts in my son's behavior, the calculated moves, the gradual positioning. But back then, I was just a mother who believed in her son. My journey with Horizon Homes began long before James was born. I was 23, freshly divorced from a man who left me with nothing but a mountain of debt and a newborn son. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment with secondhand furniture and a refrigerator that hummed so loudly it would wake James at night. I remember cradling him in the pale glow of streetlights, making him promises I wasn't sure I could keep. "We're going to be okay," I'd whisper. "Mommy's going to build something for us." Real estate wasn't my first choice, it was my only choice. My cousin Angela worked at a small agency and convinced her boss to give me a chance. I didn't have professional clothes for interviews, so Angela loaned me her only business suit. It was 2 sizes too big, but I cinched it with a belt and walked into that office like I belonged there. "Why real estate? Why real estate?" the manager asked during my interview. "Because everyone needs a home," I replied, and I understand what that truly means. I sold my first house within 2 weeks. It wasn't much, a modest 3-bedroom that had been on the market for months. The commission barely covered our rent, but it proved something to me. I could do this. Those early years were brutal. I'd drop James at a neighbor's apartment before dawn, show houses all day, pick him up, feed him dinner, put him to bed, and then spend hours studying market trends and property laws. I slept 4 hours a night if I was lucky. By the time James was 5, I'd saved enough to rent a small commercial space. Horizon Homes was born, named for the new horizons I wanted to create for my son and myself. "Mommy, is this our new house?" James asked when I first brought him to the empty office. "No, sweetheart," I said, lifting him up to see out the single window. "This is where Mommy's going to build our future." He was such a sweet child then. He'd sit quietly in the corner of my office, coloring or playing with his toys while I made calls and met with clients. Sometimes he'd bring me paper cups of water when he noticed I hadn't taken a break. "You work too hard, Mommy," he'd say, his little face serious. "I'm working hard for us," I'd reply, pulling him onto my lap for a quick cuddle before returning to my calls. When James started school, things got both easier and harder. I could work uninterrupted during the day, but the guilt of missing school events weighed on me. I tried to make it to everything important: his first soccer game, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. But sometimes business called. "It's okay, Mom," he'd say when I'd apologize for missing something. "I know you're busy making money." Even then, his focus on the financial aspect should have been a warning. As Horizon Homes grew, so did James. By the time he was 10, we'd moved from our apartment to a modest house. By 12, we upgraded to a beautiful home in one of the neighborhoods where I sold properties. I wanted him to have everything I never had: security, comfort, opportunity. Perhaps that was my first mistake. James was 14 when I noticed the shift. We were having dinner, and I was excited to tell him about a major deal I'd closed that day. "That's great, Mom," he said, pushing his food around his plate. "How much did you make?" Not, "Congratulations," or "You worked so hard for this." Just, "How much?" I brushed it off as teenage curiosity. But looking back, that was the moment money began to matter more to him than the work that earned it. In high school, James became popular and charming, traits that served him well but also changed him. He developed expensive tastes: designer clothes, the latest electronics, weekend trips with friends. I indulged him, wanting him to fit in, to have the social life I never had at his age. "You deserve this," I'd tell myself as I signed checks for school trips abroad or bought him his first car at 16. He deserves this. When James announced he wanted to study business in college, I was thrilled. "You'll take over Horizon Homes someday," I told him proudly. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Absolutely, Mom, I have big plans." College changed him further. He came home with new ideas, new connections, and new ambitions. He talked about expansion, diversification, corporate structures I barely understood. I was proud but also intimidated. My son was outgrowing me intellectually, professionally. The real estate market is changing, Mom. He'd lecture during holiday breaks. We need to adapt, or we'll be left behind. By this point, Horizon Homes had grown beyond my wildest dreams. We had 30 employees, a beautiful downtown office, and a reputation as the premier real estate company in the region. I was still working 60-hour weeks, still involved in every aspect of the business. It was my baby, second only to James. When he graduated with honors and a business degree, I threw him a lavish party at the best hotel in town. I invited all our clients, employees, and business connections. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, raising a glass to my handsome son in his tailored suit, I'm proud to introduce the future of Horizon Homes, my son, James. Everyone applauded. James smiled and gave a perfect speech about honoring traditions while embracing innovation. I beamed with pride, not recognizing the calculating look in his eyes as he surveyed the room, not seeing that he was assessing his future kingdom. James joined Horizon Homes officially the Monday after graduation. I created a position for him, Director of Strategy and Development. It came with a generous salary, a corner office, and significant decision-making power. You've earned this, I told him as I handed him the keys to his office. Thanks, Mom, he said, hugging me. I won't let you down. And he didn't, not at first. James was brilliant at his job. He modernized our systems, developed a powerful online presence, brought in younger clients. Under his guidance, we expanded into commercial real estate and property management. Profits soared. Employees loved him, especially the younger ones. He was charismatic, forward-thinking, and generous with praise. They didn't see what I occasionally glimpsed: his impatience with older staff, his dismissal of traditional methods, his hunger for control. We need to restructure the company, he suggested during a private dinner at my home, 3 years after he joined the business. Restructure how? I asked, pouring us both another glass of wine. Create a proper corporate hierarchy. Board of directors. CEO position. He paused. It's more tax efficient. And it protects us legally. Us being? You and me, Mom. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm thinking long-term here. About your retirement. About my future with the company. His words warmed my heart. My son was thinking about my retirement, about taking care of me after all I'd done for him. I agreed to talk to our lawyers about restructuring. If only I'd read the paperwork more carefully. If only I'd questioned why he was so insistent on using his law school friend instead of our longtime company attorney. If only I'd noticed how he scheduled the signing for a day when I was distracted by a family health emergency. But a mother trusts her son. A mother believes her child has her best interests at heart. The restructuring happened quickly. Horizon Homes became Horizon Properties LLC, with a board of directors consisting of James, myself, and 3 of his business school connections. I was named chairwoman and CEO, with James as president and COO. Nothing really changes day to day, he assured me. It's all about positioning ourselves for future growth. I trusted him. I signed where he pointed. I attended board meetings that felt more like formalities than actual decision-making sessions. For a while, everything seemed fine. The company continued to grow. James and I worked side by side, though I noticed he was scheduling more meetings without me, making more decisions independently. I'm just trying to take some burden off your shoulders, Mom, he'd say when I questioned him. You've worked so hard for so long. It's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. His concern touched me. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to step back a little. I started taking Fridays off. Then, long weekends. I joined a book club, took a cooking class, reconnected with old friends. Meanwhile, James was at the office early and stayed late. He hired new people, sharp, ambitious types who looked at me with a mixture of respect and impatience, as if I were a relic of a bygone era. Your mom built an amazing foundation, I overheard one of them say to James. But the future is yours to shape. The comment stung, but I brushed it aside. Wasn't this what I wanted? For my son to take pride in the company, to make it his own eventually? but eventually came sooner than I expected, in that terrible moment when my son looked me in the eye and said those words that would change everything. That's your share. Mom, now leave. If you're finding this story of family betrayal as heartbreaking as it was to live through, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of family drama and resilience. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you ever trusted someone who later betrayed you? What warning signs did you miss? In the 12 months before James's betrayal, I experienced a gradual shift in our company dynamics that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Looking back, I see now how methodically my son orchestrated his takeover, one calculated move at a time. It began innocently enough. James suggested I take a 2-week vacation to celebrate my 55th birthday. "You haven't had a real break in decades, Mom," he insisted, showing me brochures for a luxury resort in Bali. "The company won't fall apart without you for 14 days. The thought of leaving Horizon even briefly made me anxious. But James was persuasive. "Don't you trust me?" he asked, his expression wounded. "Of course I trust you," I replied. "You're my son." That phrase, "you're my son," became my mantra. The reason I overlooked so many warning signs. Because how could my own child, whom I'd raised alone and given everything to, possibly betray me? The Bali trip was wonderful. For the first time in 30 years, I truly relaxed. I swam in the ocean, got massages, read novels instead of contracts. I called the office just once. On day 3. "Everything's fine," James assured me. In fact, I just closed the Henderson deal. The Henderson deal was a commercial property we'd been negotiating for months. I felt a twinge of disappointment that I hadn't been there for the closing, followed immediately by guilt. Wasn't this what I wanted? My son succeeding? "That's fantastic," I said. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Mom. Now get back to your vacation." "That's an order." I laughed and hung up, feeling both relieved and slightly displaced. The company could function without me. This was good news, wasn't it? When I returned, tanned and refreshed, subtle changes had occurred. My parking space, always next to the entrance, had been relocated to make room for a client VIP spot. My executive assistant now sat at a desk outside James's office instead of mine. Small things, easily explained away. "We're trying a new office layout," James said when I mentioned the changes. "The clients love the VIP parking. And Sarah is helping me with the new development project. She'll be back with you next week." Sarah never did come back. Instead, James hired me a new assistant, a pleasant but inexperienced young woman named Megan who needed explaining on basic company procedures. "Sarah knows our systems inside out," I protested. "I've trained her for 5 years." "And now she's training others," James countered smoothly. "We're scaling up, Mom. That means your trusted lieutenants need to take on leadership roles." It made sense when he explained it. Everything James did always made perfect business sense. That was the problem. I could never fault his logic, only the hollow feeling it left in my stomach. Next came the executive team restructuring. James hired a new CFO, a former classmate of his named Michael, who spoke in MBA jargon and treated me with polite deference that bordered on condescension. Our longtime financial controller, Betty, who had been with me since the beginning, was promoted to a Gredig Day, special projects role that essentially sidelined her. Betty wasn't equipped to handle our growth trajectory, James explained when I questioned him. "Michael has experience with companies 5 times our size. Betty knows our history," I argued. "She understands our values." James smiled, that patient smile that had begun to grate on my nerves. "History and values don't show up on balance sheets, Mom. We need forward-thinking leadership." The pattern continued. One by one, my loyal employees were reassigned, promoted to meaningless positions, or encouraged to take early retirement. New faces appeared, all connected to James somehow, all viewing me with that same mix of obligatory respect and thinly veiled impatience. Board meetings changed too. Once, they'd been collaborative discussions where my opinion carried the most weight. Now, they felt choreographed. James would present proposals that the other board members, his friends, had clearly already reviewed and approved. "All in favor?" he would ask. And hands would raise before I'd fully process the implications of what we were voting on. The day James proposed changing our company name from Horizon Homes to Horizon Global was when I first openly challenged him. Horizon Homes has 30 years of brand recognition, I argued during the board meeting. It represents our roots, our focus on helping people find homes. It also limits us, James countered. Horizon Global reflects our expanded vision: commercial properties, international investments, property technology. We're not a tech company, I said. And we have exactly 2 international properties. Yet, James smiled. We don't have those things yet. The vote was 4-1. Horizon Global was born. I felt sick watching the new signs go up, seeing our familiar warm blue logo replaced with a sleek, cold silver one. 30 years of identity, wiped away in an afternoon. That night I called my closest friend Diana. I'm losing my company, I confessed, tears in my voice. You're not losing it, she reassured me. You're transitioning leadership to James. Isn't that what you always wanted? Not like this, I said. Not where I'm pushed aside, where everything I built is being dismantled. Have you talked to him about how you feel? I hadn't. That was the strangest part. James and I, who once spoke about everything, now engaged in carefully choreographed conversations that never touched on what was really happening between us. The next day, I invited him to lunch at our old favorite diner, a place we'd gone for special occasions when he was growing up and money was tight. I thought the familiar setting might help us reconnect. James arrived 15 minutes late, checking his phone throughout our meal. When I tried to bring up my concerns, he deflected. The market's changing, Mom. We have to evolve or die. I understand that, I said, pushing my untouched sandwich aside. But I feel like I'm being pushed out of decisions, like my experience doesn't matter anymore. That's not true, he said, though his eyes remained on his phone. Your experience is valuable, but so is fresh perspective. James, I said firmly, please put your phone down and look at me. He did reluctantly. What's happening between us? You used to value my opinion. Now it feels like you're just waiting for me to step aside. Something flickered in his eyes, annoyance? Guilt? It was gone too quickly to identify. You're being paranoid, he said. I'm just doing what's best for the company. Our company. Our company. I repeated. But it doesn't feel like ours anymore. It feels like yours, with me as a figurehead. James reached across the table and took my hand. You're tired, Mom. You've carried this burden for so long. I'm just trying to lighten your load. His touch was warm, his expression concerned. I wanted so badly to believe him. Maybe you should take another vacation, he suggested, or work part-time for a while. You've earned it. Had I? Had I earned the right to step back, to trust my son to carry forward my legacy? Or was I abandoning everything I'd built? I agreed to reduce my hours, coming in at 10 instead of 8, leaving at 4 instead of 7. It felt strange at first, but I gradually adjusted to my new schedule. I started a garden, joined a yoga class, called old friends. Meanwhile, James implemented more changes. He moved my office from the corner suite to a smaller space to make room for a strategic planning center. He stopped copying me on important emails. Client meetings happened without my knowledge. I felt like a ghost in the company I had created, drifting through hallways where fewer and fewer people recognized me. New employees didn't know I was the founder, unless someone told them. At company events, I was introduced as James's mother rather than our founder and chairwoman. The final straw came during our annual Client Appreciation Gala. For 30 years, I had given the keynote speech, thanking our clients for their trust and partnership. This year, James took the podium instead. As CEO of Horizon Global, he began, and my heart stopped. CEO? When had that happened? We are grateful for your continued faith in our vision. He continued seamlessly, not noticing my shocked expression. After the speech, I cornered him by the bar. CEO? When was that decided? At the last board meeting, he said casually, signaling the bartender for another drink. I was at the last board meeting. There was no vote on changing leadership. Not the regular meeting, Mom. The executive session. It was all properly done, I assure you. Executive session? I'm the chairwoman, there can't be board sessions I don't know about. James lowered his voice. Maybe we should discuss this tomorrow. In private. No. I insisted. We discuss it now. What executive session? He sighed, steering me toward a quiet corner. The bylaws allow for executive sessions with a majority vote. It's all perfectly legal. Legal doesn't make it right, I hissed. You went behind my back. We did what was necessary for the company's growth. The board felt a clear leadership transition would reassure our investors. The board. You mean your 3 college friends who know nothing about real estate but vote however you tell them to? James's expression hardened. Don't make a scene, Mom. Not here, not in front of our clients. In that moment, looking at my son's face so familiar yet so foreign, I realized how completely I'd lost control. Of my company. Of my relationship with my son. Of the legacy I'd spent 30 years building. This conversation isn't over, I warned him. Actually, it is, he replied, his voice cool. For now. Enjoy the party, Mom. It's a celebration, after all. As I watched him walk away to charm a group of clients, I felt a chill of premonition. Something was coming to a head. The subtle push was about to become a shove. I just didn't realize how hard the fall would be. If you're invested in my story, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear how this family drama unfolds. In the comments, tell me, have you ever felt someone gradually pushing you out of your own life? How did you recognize what was happening? Stay tuned for what happens next, the moment when everything I feared became undeniably real. The day everything fell apart began like any other. I arrived at the office at 10, my new reduced schedule nodding hello to the receptionist who barely looked up from her computer. The lobby no longer displayed photos of our early days or our first office. Instead, sleek digital screens showcased our newest properties and latest awards, all achievements under James's leadership. I passed Michael, our new CFO, in the hallway. He was deep in conversation with James, both of them hunched over a tablet. Good morning, I said brightly. Michael startled, as if caught doing something wrong. James merely glanced up, his expression neutral. Mom, I need to see you in my office at 11. His tone was clipped, professional. We have some matters to discuss before the board meeting at noon. Board meeting? I frowned. It's not on my calendar. Megan should have updated it. Special session. James turned back to Michael. Let's continue this later. They moved away, leaving me standing alone in the hallway, clutching my purse like an outsider. A special board meeting not on my calendar, despite being chairwoman. The disrespect was so blatant it took my breath away. In my downgraded office, I found Megan arranging flowers on my desk. These just arrived for you, she said cheerfully. The card read, To Mom, with appreciation for everything. J. Flowers. Before firing me. The calculated coldness of it made me shiver. Megan, please pull all the financial reports from the last quarter. And the company bylaws. My voice was steadier than I felt. Oh. She hesitated. Mr. Sullivan asked me to prepare for the client meeting this afternoon. I'm not sure I'll have time for. I'm still an executive at this company, I said firmly. The financial reports and bylaws. Now, please. She scurried out, clearly uncomfortable with defying James's priorities. 10 minutes later, she returned with a thin folder. This is all I could access, she said apologetically. Most of the financial documents require CFO approval now. I needed CFO approval to see my own company's finances. The folder contained only surface-level information, nothing revealing the true state of operations. At precisely 11, I walked to James's office. My old office, redecorated in minimalist gray and black, all traces of my 30 years erased. No family photos, no awards from our early days. Just James's diplomas and the new corporate awards. His assistant, my former assistant, Sarah, smiled tightly and buzzed him. Mrs. Sullivan is here. Mrs. Sullivan. Not Margaret. Not even your mother. The formality was another small cut in a 1,000-cut day. Send her in. James sat behind my old desk, the desk where I'd signed our first $1 million contract, where I'd worked through nights when we were struggling, where I'd first taught him about real estate. He didn't stand when I entered. Take a seat, Mom. I remained standing, What's this about, James? Why wasn't I informed about a board meeting? That's what I wanted to discuss before the meeting. He gestured again to the chair. Please. I sat, reluctantly. The company has reached a crossroads. He began, his tone measured. We have opportunities for expansion that require significant restructuring. What kind of restructuring? Global opportunities. Institutional investors interested in backing us for international growth. But they have concerns. About what? About leadership continuity. About modernization. About our ability to scale beyond the regional market. We've grown 20% year over year for 5 years, I pointed out. That doesn't suggest a company struggling to scale. In our existing market, yes. But to go truly global, we need different leadership. Younger leadership. He met my eyes. The investors want assurance that I'm at the helm long term. I built this company, I said quietly. From nothing, when you were in diapers. And that's commendable, Mom. But business isn't about the past. It's about the future. So, what exactly are you proposing? James slid a document across the desk. A clean transition. You step down as chairwoman, retain a 15% share of the company. We call it a well-deserved retirement. Everyone saves face. I didn't touch the paper. And if I refuse? Something hardened in his eyes. Then things become messy. Messy how? There are some financial irregularities from the early days of the company that would be difficult to explain to regulators. My blood ran cold. Are you threatening me? I'm being practical. The board has already voted on the fend. Leadership change. This is a courtesy, a chance for you to exit gracefully. A courtesy? My voice rose. You're trying to force me out of my own company? And you call it a courtesy? Lower your voice, Mom. The office doesn't need to hear this. Oh, I think they do. I think they need to hear how you're staging a coup against your own mother. James pressed a button on his desk. Sarah, please ensure we're not disturbed. I heard the click of the door locking. My son had just imprisoned me in my own former office. This is happening, Mom. Today. The only question is whether you make it easier or harder on yourself. He tapped the document. 15% is generous. The company valuation is $40 million. That's $6 million for your retirement, more than fair for someone your age. My age? I almost laughed. I'm 55, not 85. Old enough to enjoy retirement. Travel. Hobbies. Whatever people do when they're not working. I don't want to retire. This company is my life's work. And now it's mine. His voice turned cold. I've earned this. I've modernized everything while you clung to outdated methods. I've brought in the investors that will take us global. I've assembled the team that will execute our expansion with my company, my reputation, my client relationships. Former clients, Mom. Most of our current portfolio came in under my leadership. I felt like I was drowning. Why are you doing this? I would have given you everything eventually. You're my son, my only child, my heir. Eventually isn't good enough. His expression didn't change. And splitting leadership between us sends mixed signals to the market. We need one clear vision. Your vision. The right vision. He glanced at his watch. The board meeting starts in 15 minutes. I need your decision. The board works for me. I'll tell them exactly what you're trying to do. James smiled thinly. The board appointed by the shareholders works for the shareholders. And as of last week's share redistribution, I control 51% of voting shares. That's impossible. I own 70% of the company. You owned 70%. The restructuring last quarter included a share redistribution clause. Page 94, paragraph 3, subsection C. You signed it. Memory flashed a thick document, James leaning over my shoulder. Just standard reorganization paperwork, Mom. Nothing to worry about. You tricked me, I whispered. My own son. I outmaneuvered you. He corrected. There's a difference. Not to a mother, there isn't. For a moment something flickered in his eyes, regret? Shame? But it vanished quickly, replaced by cool determination. The offer stands. 15%. A public statement about your retirement. A place on the advisory board, non-voting, of course. Or what? You'll fabricate financial crimes? Frame your own mother? Business isn't personal, Mom. You taught me that. I never taught you to be cruel, to betray family. That you learned somewhere else. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Sullivan, the board members are gathering in the conference room. Thank you, Sarah. We'll be right there. James stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Time to decide, Mom. Take the deal or fight a battle you can't win. I rose shakily to my feet. You think I won't fight? You think I'll just roll over and let you steal everything I built? I think you're smart enough to recognize reality. He picked up the document and held it out. 15%. $6 million. A comfortable retirement. That's my offer. And if I go to that board meeting and tell them exactly what you're doing, then you get nothing. I'll contest every share, claim financial mismanagement, tie everything up in court until you're broke and broken. His voice was matter of fact, as if discussing the weather. Sign now, or lose everything. We stood there, mother and son, separated by a desk and an unbridgeable chasm of betrayal. 30 years of love and sacrifice had led to this moment, my child looking at me, not with love or gratitude, but with cold calculation. You were a colicky baby, I said quietly. Did you know that? You cried every night for months. I would walk the floor with you until sunrise, singing, bouncing you, anything to give you comfort. Even when I had to be up for work in 2 hours. Even when I was so exhausted I couldn't see straight. Because that's what mothers do. They sacrifice. Something flickered across his face again, that momentary crack in the armor. This isn't about, I missed my own father's funeral because we had a closing that couldn't be rescheduled. I worked through pneumonia, through a broken wrist, through heartbreaks and setbacks and countless sleepless nights, all to build this. My voice broke. All for you. Mom. No. I held up my hand. You've said enough. Now you'll listen. I walked to the window where I'd stood so many times, planning, dreaming, building a future for us. I won't sign, I said finally. Do your worst, James. Take it to court. Tell your lies. I may lose everything, but at least I'll keep my dignity. At least I'll be able to look in the mirror. I turned back to face him. This stranger wearing my son's face. You want to destroy me? Your own mother? Then you'll have to do it publicly. Let everyone see who you really are. James's expression hardened. This is business, not personal. No, James. This is both. I moved toward the door. I'll see you in the boardroom. Wait. He stepped forward, blocking my path. One last chance. Take the offer. Or what? You'll physically stop me now? For a terrible moment. I thought he might. Then he stepped aside. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. I opened the door, pausing on the threshold to deliver the words that would haunt us both. No, James. I made my mistake the day I taught you to value money over family. That's a lesson I'll regret until the day I die. I walked out, head high, heart shattered, toward a boardroom where my fate and the fate of everything I'd built would be decided. If this story of family betrayal has touched you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the comments, tell me, how far would you go to fight for what's rightfully yours, even against your own flesh and blood? Stay tuned for what happens next, the aftermath of this devastating confrontation, and how I found the strength to rebuild. The board meeting lasted exactly 47 minutes. I remember checking my watch as I left the conference room, thinking absurdly that my life had been dismantled in less time than it takes to watch a TV drama. I'd made my case, passionately told them about James's threats, his manipulation, the buried clause in the restructuring documents. I showed them 3 decades of growth under my leadership, reminded them of the relationships I'd built, the reputation I'd established. Some seemed moved. Martin Chen, our longest-serving board member, couldn't meet my eyes. But in the end, it didn't matter. The vote was 4-1. The only vote in my favor was my own. I'm sorry, Margaret, Martin said afterward, catching me in the hallway. The company bylaws are clear. James controls the majority of voting shares now. Through deception, I replied. Through lying to his own mother. Martin looked uncomfortable. The legal team reviewed everything. The share redistribution was properly documented. You signed the papers. Under false pretenses. That's difficult to prove. He glanced around nervously. For what it's worth, I think the 15% offer is fair. Better than what most founders get in these situations. Fair? I stared at him. He's my son, Martin. My only child. I built this company for him. And now he's running it. Perhaps not the way you expected, but not the way anyone with basic human decency would expect. My voice rose, causing heads to turn in the open office area. What kind of person steals from their own mother? Martin stepped back. I think you should take some time, Margaret. Cool down. Consider the offer. Consider the... I broke off, laughing bitterly. You've all lost your minds. Or your souls. I walked away from him, past curious eyes and whispered conversations, straight to my office. My small, relocated, insignificant office that wasn't even mine anymore. Megan stood as I entered, her expression anxious. Mrs. Sullivan, I've been asked to help me pack. Yes, I assumed. I grabbed my purse and the framed photo of James's college graduation, the only personal item I'd brought to this sterile new space. No need. I travel light these days. Mr. Sullivan wants to see you before you leave, she said timidly. I bet he does. I headed for the door. Tell him I said he can go to hell. He said it's about the settlement paperwork. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. Tell him I'll have my lawyer contact his lawyer. You don't have a lawyer, Mrs. Sullivan, came James's voice from the doorway. The company attorneys have always handled your legal affairs. I turned slowly. Then I'll get one. That would be unwise. Any lawyer will tell you the same thing you signed the documents. The share redistribution is legal, and fighting it will only drain what resources you have left. He gestured to his office. Let's talk privately. No. I crossed my arms. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. In front of witnesses. James's jaw tightened. He nodded to Megan. Give us the room, please. She scurried out, closing the door behind her. The offer stands, James said once we were alone. 15%. $6 million. A clean break. And if I refuse? If I get my own lawyer and fight this? Then you get nothing. His voice was calm, matter of fact. The company will contest every share. We'll argue financial mismanagement during your tenure. We'll tie everything up in court for years. You'd put your own mother through that? I'd prefer not to. That's why I'm offering a generous settlement. He slid a document from his jacket pocket. The paperwork is ready. Sign today, and the funds will be in your account by tomorrow morning. I looked at the paper, then back at my son's face, this stranger wearing a mask of professionalism over bottomless ambition. How long have you been planning this? I asked quietly. Does it matter? It matters to me. James sighed. Since business school. I saw the potential in what you'd built, and I saw how much bigger it could be with the right strategy, the right connections. Without me, you mean? With you in a different role. Advisory? Emeritus. Not operational. You could have talked to me about this. We could have worked together on a transition plan. I would have given you control eventually. Eventually wasn't good enough. The same phrase he'd used earlier. Practiced. Rehearsed. The opportunities we have now won't wait for eventually. I studied him, this man I'd raised, this child I'd sacrificed everything for. What happened to you, James? When did money become more important than family? Something flickered in his eyes. This isn't about money. It's about building something significant. I built something significant. From nothing, with a baby on my hip and debt collectors at my door. And I'm grateful for that foundation. But Horizon needs to evolve beyond a mom-and-pop real estate company. Mom and pop? I laughed bitterly. We have 30 employees and a $40 million valuation. And we could have 300 employees and a $400 million valuation with the right leadership and strategy. He pushed the paper toward me. Sign, Mom. Take the money. Enjoy your life. I stared at the document, this piece of paper that would sever my connection to 30 years of work, of dreams, of identity. And if I refuse, if I fight this publicly, tell everyone how you betrayed your own mother, then I'll be forced to release information about financial irregularities from the card company's early days. There were no irregularities. There were creative accounting decisions. Necessary ones, perhaps, when you were struggling, but questionable under today's regulatory standards. I felt the blood drain from my face. You would fabricate evidence against me? Not fabricate. Highlight. Reframe. His expression was calm. It would hurt the company short term, but we'd recover. Would you? The threat hung between us. My word against his. The founder against the innovative new CEO. The past against the future. Who are you? I whispered. I don't recognize you anymore. I'm exactly who you raised me to be, Mom. Ambitious, strategic, determined. I didn't raise you to be cruel, to betray family. You raised me to succeed, to build something lasting. He tapped the paper. Your decision. Sign and walk away with dignity and $6 million. Or fight and lose everything. I looked down at the document, my life's work reduced to a payout, my relationship with my only child fractured beyond repair. With trembling fingers, I took the pen he offered. I want one thing in addition to the money, I said. What's that? I want you to say it. I want you to tell me, to my face, that you're pushing me out. No corporate speak. No euphemisms. I want the truth. James hesitated, then squared his shoulders. I'm taking control of Horizon. You're out. That's your share, Mom. Now leave. The words sliced through me like physical pain, but they were clarifying too, burning away any lingering doubt about what was happening. I signed the paper. Congratulations, I said, sliding it back to him. You've won. This isn't about winning or losing, Mom. Isn't it? I stood, gathering my purse and the loan photo. I hope whatever you're building is worth the price you've paid for it. The money will be in your account tomorrow, he said, as if I hadn't spoken. Keep it. I headed for the door. Don't be dramatic, Mom. Take the settlement. I paused, hand on the doorknob. Consider it your inheritance. The only thing you'll ever get from me again. I walked out without looking back. Past curious employees, through the lobby with its digital screens and modern furniture, out into the bright afternoon sunshine that seemed to mock my darkness. 30 years of my life. Gone in 47 minutes. I drove home in a daze, muscle memory navigating the familiar route while my mind replayed every moment of betrayal, searching for signs I'd missed, chances to prevent what happened. My house, the beautiful home I'd bought when Horizon first became profitable, felt suddenly hollow. Every room filled with memories of James. His high school graduation photo on the mantle. The dining room where we'd celebrated company milestones. The backyard where he'd practiced soccer as a child. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching photographs, fingering mementos, reliving a lifetime of love and sacrifice that had led to this devastating end. The phone rang several times. Diana, probably, checking on me after the board meeting. I let it go to voicemail. What could I possibly say? How do you explain that your only child has betrayed you so completely? As evening fell, I sat in my darkened living room, a glass of untouched wine on the side table, staring at the wall of family photos I could barely see in the dimness. The numbness began to wear off, replaced by waves of emotion, grief, rage, disbelief, humiliation. I had built a company from nothing, with a baby on my hip and determination in my heart. I had sacrificed sleep, relationships, my youth, all to create something meaningful, something lasting, something for my son. And he had taken it all with cold calculation, as if it were his right. As if my life's work were merely a stepping stone for his ambitions. The tears came then, hot and relentless. I cried for my lost company, for my betrayed trust, for the son I thought I knew, for the mother who had clearly failed in some fundamental way. I cried until there were no tears left, until exhaustion replaced emotion and a strange calm settled over me. In that quiet moment of clarity, I realized something important. This wasn't over. James had taken my company, but he hadn't taken my knowledge, my experience, my relationships, my determination. I might have signed away Horizon, but I hadn't signed away my future. As dawn broke, I made a decision. This betrayal wouldn't destroy me. It would transform me. I would rebuild not just a business, but a life. A life without the son who had shattered my heart, but a life with purpose nonetheless. I picked up my phone and made my first call. Diana? It's me. Yes, I'm okay. No, not really. But I will be. I took a deep breath. I need the name of your lawyer. The good one. Yes, it's about James. And Horizon. And what comes next. What came next would surprise everyone, especially my son. If my story of betrayal and resilience resonates with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for the next part. In the comments, share your thoughts. Have you ever had to completely rebuild your life after betrayal? How did you find the strength to start over? Stay with me for the final chapter, how I rose from the ashes of betrayal to create something even more meaningful than what I lost. 6 months after James pushed me out of Horizon, I stood in an empty storefront, keys in hand, staring at possibilities. The space wasn't much, about 800 square feet in a developing neighborhood, with scuffed floors and outdated fixtures. Nothing like Horizon's sleek downtown headquarters with its panoramic views and designer furniture. But it was mine. Holly. Completely mine. Are you sure about this, Margaret? Diana asked, surveying the space dubiously. You could retire comfortably with your settlement. Travel. Relax for once in your life. I ran my hand along the dusty counter. And do what? Fade away? Let James's betrayal be the final chapter of my story? Nobody would blame you for taking a break after what happened. I would blame me. I turned to face her. I built something from nothing once before. I can do it again. After the initial shock of James's betrayal wore off, I'd gone through a dark period, weeks of barely leaving my bed, ignoring calls, struggling to find purpose. Diana had practically moved in, forcing me to eat, to shower, to face each new day. You're grieving, she'd told me. Not just the company, but the relationship with your son. The future you thought you had. Give yourself time. Time had helped, but action helped more. The turning point came when I received an unexpected call from Betty, my former financial controller who'd been sidelined during James's takeover. He fired me, she said without preamble. Said my position was redundant under the new structure. I'm so sorry, Betty. Don't be. Best thing that could have happened. Her voice was surprisingly upbeat. I've been thinking about what's next. For both of us. Both of us? You built Horizon from scratch once. The company succeeded because of your vision, your values, your connections. Not because of the name or the fancy office. What are you suggesting? Start over, but differently this time. Better, with people you trust. That conversation sparked something in me, a flame. I thought James had permanently extinguished. Within weeks, I'd contacted a lawyer, reviewed my non-compete clause, which prevented me from opening a direct competitor in the same market for 2 years, and began formulating a plan. Now, standing in this humble storefront, that plan was taking physical form. New Horizons Real Estate. Diana read from my business plan. Subtle. I smiled. Just different enough to avoid legal issues. Besides, it fits. This is my new horizon. And you're really focusing on affordable housing? That's not exactly high margin. It's high impact. I walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood, a mix of old homes, small businesses, and potential. While James chases global expansion and luxury developments, I'm going back to what matters, helping people find homes they can actually afford. Creating community. Noble. Diana nodded. But will it pay the bills? With the right team and approach? Yes. I turned back to her. I've been in this business 30 years. I know where the opportunities are, where the gaps exist. James is focused so much on growth and prestige that he's overlooking the foundation of the housing market. 3 weeks later, New Horizons Real Estate officially opened its doors. My team was small but mighty, Betty handling the finances, Carlos, our former top agent, who quit when James changed the commission structure, leading sales, and Luisa, a brilliant young designer who'd been passed over for promotion at Horizon because she didn't fit James's corporate image. We focused on affordable housing solutions, helping first-time buyers navigate complex financing options, working with local developers on mixed-income projects, consulting with community organizations on housing accessibility. It wasn't glamorous work. We weren't making headlines or winning industry awards like Horizon Global. But we were making a difference. And gradually, we were making a name for ourselves. Margaret Sullivan? From Horizon? A young couple had walked into our office one rainy Tuesday afternoon. We heard you started a new company. That's right, I smiled. How can I help you? We were working with Horizon on buying our first home, but the woman hesitated. They're only focused on luxury properties now. Her husband finished, said our budget was too small to bother with. I felt a stab of disappointment. That was never how I'd run Horizon. Well, your budget matters to us. Let's talk about what you're looking for. By our 6-month anniversary, New Horizons had helped 28 families purchase homes within their means. We'd partnered with 2 nonprofit organizations on affordable housing initiatives. We'd even launched a first-time homebuyer education program that was gaining recognition throughout the region. We weren't competing with Horizon Global, not directly. We were filling the void they'd created by chasing bigger, more prestigious clients and projects. I'd occasionally hear news about James and his rapidly expanding empire. Horizon Global had opened offices in 3 additional cities. They'd partnered with international investors on luxury developments. Their stock value had doubled since going public. By all traditional metrics, James was wildly successful. I tried not to think about him. About what might have been if he'd simply waited, if we'd worked together, if he hadn't betrayed me so completely. Then came the day I couldn't avoid thinking about him anymore. Margaret Sullivan? A receptionist called as I entered the Regional Business Leadership Conference. There's a message for you. The note was simple. Mom, can we talk? Suite 7. 12. J. My heart pounded as I rode the elevator to the 7th floor. I hadn't seen or spoken to James in nearly a year. What could he possibly want? Was this another attack? A buyout offer? A reconciliation attempt? I hesitated outside Suite 712, then knocked firmly. James opened the door himself. He looked older somehow, though it had been less than a year. More lines around his eyes. Less softness in his face. Mom. He stepped back to let me enter. Thank you for coming. The suite was elaborate. Clearly one of the premium conference spaces. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic city views. A spread of gourmet food sat untouched on a side table. What's this about, James? I remained standing, keeping distance between us. I heard about New Horizons. He gestured to the seating area. Please, sit. I prefer to stand. He nodded, accepting this small resistance. Your company is making waves in affordable housing circles. The Community Impact Award last month was well-deserved. You're tracking my business? I track all significant market developments. He paused. But yes, I've paid particular attention to your new venture. Why? We're hardly competition for your global aspirations. No, he admitted. But you've found a niche we've neglected. The affordable sector has surprising growth potential when approached correctly. Understanding dawned. This is a business meeting? You want to acquire New Horizons? I want to propose a partnership. James picked up a folder from the coffee table. Horizon Global, handling the premium market. New Horizons focusing on affordable and mid-range properties. Complementary businesses under one corporate umbrella. I laughed a short, harsh sound. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about business opportunities. You pushed me out of my own company. Threatened me. Betrayed me in every possible way. My voice remained steady despite the anger bubbling beneath. And now you want to partner? Business isn't personal, Mom. That's where you're wrong, James. Business is deeply personal. It's about relationships, trust, integrity, things you sacrificed for profit and expansion. Horizon Global's success speaks for itself. We've tripled in size. Our stock value, I don't care about your stock value. I cut him off. I care about people. Homes. Communities. The things Horizon used to stand for before you turned it into a soulless corporation. Something flickered across his face, discomfort. Perhaps. Or recognition. The market is changing, he said after a moment. Luxury development is slowing. Affordable housing is the growth sector for the next decade. Your expertise in that area would be valuable. So, This isn't about reconciliation. It's about acquisition. About absorbing what I've built. Again, it's about smart business. He opened the folder. The terms are generous. You'd maintain leadership of the New Horizons division with full autonomy, substantial equity stake, board position. I studied my son's face, this stranger who shared my DNA but apparently none of my values. What happened to you, James? When did profit become more important than people, than family? He stiffened. I built Horizon Global into something significant. At what cost? Do you have any real relationships? Anyone who trusts you? Who loves you despite your flaws? I have respect, influence, success. And that's enough? For a moment, something vulnerable crossed his face, a glimpse of the boy I'd raised, the child who once brought me paper cups of water when I worked too hard. But it vanished quickly behind his corporate mask. The offer stands, he said, pushing the folder toward me. Review the terms. It makes business sense. I left the folder on the table. I built New Horizons on values you abandoned: integrity, community, accessibility. We help people find homes they can afford, not investment properties they can flip. Those values don't preclude profit. No, but they prioritize people over profit. Something you've forgotten. I moved toward the door. I'm not interested in your offer, James. Not now, not ever. Mom, I've built something meaningful again, something true to my values. I won't let you take that from me too. You're making an emotional decision instead of a rational one. I'm making a human decision instead of a spreadsheet decision. I paused at the door. That's the difference between us now, and it's why New Horizons will thrive in ways Horizon Global never will. 3 years have passed since that confrontation. New Horizons has grown into a regional leader in affordable housing solutions, with 4 offices and a foundation that helps low-income families with down payments. We've helped over 500 families find homes within their means. We've partnered with community organizations on innovative housing projects. We've won awards not for our profit margins but for our impact. I've heard James married recently, a corporate attorney he met through business. I wasn't invited to the wedding. Horizon Global continues to expand, though rumor has it they've had setbacks in the luxury market downturn. Sometimes I still grieve what might have been the mother-son partnership we could have built, the legacy we could have shared, the relationship we lost. But I've found peace in creating something new, something true to my values, something that helps people in tangible ways. I've surrounded myself with a team who shares those values, who feels more like family than my own son does now. The betrayal that could have destroyed me instead transformed me, forced me to rebuild not just a business, but an identity, a purpose, a future. If there's a lesson in my story, it's this. When someone tries to write the end of your story, take back the pen. The final chapter belongs to you. If my journey from betrayal to redemption has touched you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the comments, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with rebuilding after loss or betrayal. How did you find strength when everything seemed lost? Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your greatest setback might be setting you up for your greatest comeback.